With me this evening is Dennis Carey. He's the Secretary of Labor for the state of Delaware. Dennis couldn't be with us live on the show this evening. We had to tape this interview earlier because he found out that Governor DuPont was giving a State of the State address in the evening, and duty called and he had to join Governor DuPont. But I'm glad that Dennis could come earlier in the day to tape this interview. Hello, Dennis.
Hello, Bob. Nice to see you again.
Dennis, last time you were here, we were talking about you being the first Delawarean to swim the English Channel. Of course, you're not doing that anymore, are you?
No, I've retired. Hopefully that is my first and last attempt at the channel.
Mm-hmm. And we go way back to being political science majors at the University of Delaware. And
yes, that's right.
Of course, are you still working as a lifeguard down at the beach?
No, I've also given that up, although I miss that very much.
You did that for, what, 10 years?
10 years, yes,
mm-hmm.
in Ocean City, New Jersey.
Mm-hmm. Now, before coming Secretary of Labor, you've had some other interesting experiences. You were a special assistant to Governor DuPont recently. What did that entail?
Well, principally, I was education advisor to the governor for about 2.5 years, shortly after leaving the school system with Dr. Biggs, where I was assistant to the school superintendent, administrative assistant to the superintendent of schools.
Mm-hmm. And then you also took a sabbatical and taught a course at Harvard.
Yes, that was just last semester. Between September and December, I taught a course on the unemployment crisis, what role for Washington, D.C. At Harvard University.
That must have been quite challenging.
Yes, it was. The students are the best and the brightest in the country, and they challenged me to a great degree.
Kept you on your toes, I'm sure.
Yes.
Well, you're here today, of course, in your capacity as Secretary of Labor. I want to talk to you now about the nature of the unemployment problem in Delaware. Could you comment upon that?
Sure. Delaware has been very fortunate over the last several months to, for the first time in quite some time, fall below the national average. Delaware is showing some very positive signs in their efforts to provide a solid economic development program, generate jobs in the state, attract new jobs, and maintain the jobs that we currently have. This has been done principally through the efforts of Governor DuPont, and of course his principal advisor being Nathan Hayward in the area of economic development. And that effort principally has been directed toward diversification of Delaware's economy. This was very beneficial to our state this time around in this current recession, and that it does provide a broader base of potential job opportunities, irrespective of those parts of the economy that tend to decline more significantly during recessionary periods.
Now, you mentioned before we were here today that there's a structural unemployment problem, and maybe perhaps you could define that term first.
Yeah, it's interesting when you look at the problem of unemployment generally that even under the best of times, even if we recover very soon from our current economic situation, we will still have a very high percentage of unemployment in certain constituencies in the population. What basically happens is certain elements of the population basically lack the skills necessary to access new jobs that are emerging in new industries. In particular, the service and the high-tech economy. Those jobs in the manufacturing and the traditional smokestack industries are on the decline. We see fewer automobiles being produced in this country principally because of international competition and international forces. We see changes in consumer preferences. We see also the onslaught of technological change, which is shifting the debate, the unemployment debate, from the cyclical debate, that is providing an economic development program nationwide with a more expansionary monetary and fiscal policy, supply side if you will, to the debate as to whether we do have a very significant structural element to our unemployment problem. That is that people simply lack the skills, the hard retraining that's necessary to be done to transition people from where they are today in today's economy where they need to move in tomorrow's projected economy.
Can you give us an example of that here in Delaware?
Well, certainly we've seen evidence within Delaware recently at Phoenix Steel, for example, where a whole division at Phoenix Steel has displaced approximately 60 workers. Those workers were performing specific tasks and may need specific help from the government in the form of counseling and possibly retraining to get from where they are now to where they need to go in tomorrow's economy.
Now, Governor DuPont is doing something about this. He has a special displaced worker program. Would you comment upon that?
Yeah, the displaced worker program that we are to initiate on Monday, Bob, January 24th, is a special effort to provide special services to those people who are displaced. We will be providing service in two forms. One is counseling assistance, which will provide attitudinal readjustment, job search, skill activity, and also hard retraining, skill retraining if necessary. This retraining will take place in the community and technical colleges principally.
Now, Governor DuPont's program, of course, may be adopted by President Reagan. He seems to have shown some interest in that program.
We're very optimistic currently. We've had the endorsement of the U.S. Chamber of Commerce on this particular effort. The AFL-CIO and the NAM and UAW were all participating in the development of this concept. So we're very, very optimistic that we're going to receive the endorsement of all the major organizations with this particular approach. Obviously, from the standpoint of the administration, the bottom line is one of the amount of the availability of dollars. And we're hoping that the money is there soon to fund a program of this effort, because obviously, if we can take people off the unemployment lines more quickly, we can save money not only to the Unemployment Insurance Trust Fund, which is representing a significant drain on the employer side, who is making the contribution to unemployment insurance for the first 26 weeks benefits. But also we can save money to the federal government, who funds the extended benefit program in the unemployment insurance system in two ways. One is through the EB program, extended benefits for 13 weeks beyond the normal 26-week period, and then another additional supplemental period which is usually provided during recessionary times like we're currently involved in.
Isn't there the danger that President Reagan will enjoy the Delaware program so much he might tell Governor DuPont that he wants him to come with his administration to run the program?
Well, there has been speculation about Governor DuPont being the new Secretary of Labor. That discussion continues. Obviously, the governor is leading the area in the country, in the employment and training area in particular. He has tremendous expertise, not only from the standpoint of helping kids in schools transition better into the workforce through his initiatives through Jobs for Delaware Graduates, but here's another example of Pete DuPont taking the lead in an area where heretofore virtually no activity has taken place in the United States, and that is helping people who are currently unemployed to get retrained, to develop new skills so that they can meet tomorrow's economy appropriately.
How does the Delaware unemployment rate compare with other states in the United States?
Well, Delaware, for the first time in several years, fell below the national average in unemployment. We've been tracking below the national average now for several months.
Of course, being in the eastern part of the United States, that speaks well for itself.
It certainly does, because traditionally the Northeast corridor during recessionary periods has been the hardest hit because of the kinds of industries that are located here, principally steel and auto, which is being very hard hit at this time.
Well, of course, we have to transition away from those types of industries, and I think in Delaware we're doing that.
Yes, the diversification program undertaken by economic development, and of course programs such as the Displaced Worker Program, which will help people make that transition from one industrial base, if you will, to another emerging sector, is critical if we're going to succeed in helping people make these tremendous adjustments. Some economists predict that within the next decade, we're likely to see 10 to 15 million manufacturing jobs cease forever that are currently out there in today's economy. And a commensurate increase is projected in the service and high-tech sectors, which would give us, I think, a good lead to where we ought to be investing our attention, and that is helping to make sure that transition can be effectuated with minimal disruption on the part of people's individual lives.
Well, Dennis, I'm glad to see we're heading in the right direction.
Thank you, Bob.
Thanks. This has been Dennis Carey, Secretary of Labor for the state of Delaware, and one of the fine Delawareans that makes our state